right, if you're a Uganda fan, a United fan, or an Arsenal fan, today is going to be complicated for you. But that's why we're here. We'll be looking into Morocco, Manchester United, and a bit of boxing as well. So yeah, let's talk. We're here. This is Mark to Mark. I think starting from the start, I'm going to begin with Maxali. Let's begin from Morocco, Mark. Tell me more about Morocco. You've been following AFCON for quite some time, and we want to understand what exactly went wrong.
Well, I'll start with the Uganda Cranes, of course. There's quite a bit that's been going on. There's 24 countries, well, a few have gone on now, but there were 24 to start. And Uganda was the biggest point of interest for me. Well, we were really underwhelmed, if you like. It was not the kind of performance we thought we'd put up, considering that we'd had a full year of international friendlies, of international competitions, both in the World Cup qualifiers and in CHAN.
Well, if you can hold that thought, do you think it was just bad football or it was in preparation?
Ultimately, like Mark will tell you, we came unstuck because of things that happened off the pitch. But on the pitch, which is where I was watching, because Mark was in Morocco, so he'll probably know a little more about what was happening off it. On it, I just didn't think we did ourselves justice. From what I'd seen in the qualifiers for the AFCON itself, as well as for the World Cup, which were closer to kickoff of this Morocco tournament, is I thought we would play better than we did. Especially in that game against Tanzania. I always thought that Tunisia would be a tough game for us. Ugandan teams have, they struggle to start tournaments in most of the sports that I've followed over the years. And I thought that would be there would be a problem with Tunisia. Even then, the scoreline and the performances were both poor. But I did think, especially because in this AFCON, there was a chance for third-place teams coming out of groups to qualify for the knockout phases. I thought we'd have a great chance. We'd put ourselves in a position to be able to do that by beating Tanzania. It was an East African derby. It was one that was always going to be tough because of, how competitive Tanzania would be against us. But watching the game, there's no reason as to why we didn't win it. Of course, it came down to that kick by Alan Okello, terrible missed penalty, and which meant that we drew the game rather than win it. If we had won that, we'd definitely be still in Morocco. But we're not. Having said that, though, we should have won that game. Penalties or not, we should have. We didn't do ourselves justice, and then in the final game against Nigeria, by then I think we'd come totally unstuck. There were poor performances from the individuals all across the pitch, and from the collective as well, and also poor performances, poor selections, poor decisions made by Paul Put and his team in who they played against Tunisia, in what changes they made. Ultimately, for both games between against Tanzania and Nigeria. So, and for me, Mark, by the way, there's only one or two players that I thought based themselves in glory in this losing effort, in this misadventure that was the Cranes in Morocco. I'd only mention, say, Aziz Kayondo, the left back, always good, is only one of those that I can compare with our true greats. And then Toby Sibik, I thought had a good tournament, as did Dennis Omedi. Stepped off the bench, created a goal. Started next game, scored another. And I thought that there were some average performances from the likes of Jordan Obita and a few other guys across the pitch. Most of the rest of them didn't show.
All right, thank you so much, Maxley. Now, Mark Nemanja, this is going to be an off the pitch, because I know you are right there. You are so close to what happened in Morocco. Do you think we set ourselves up for failure, especially in terms of preparation? I don't know, maybe accommodation and,
Yes, we did. We set ourselves for failure. Everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in Morocco. This was the worst camp that Uganda has been engaged in at AFCON from the time we qualified. 2017, the team camped in Abu Dhabi. 2019, the team camped again in Abu Dhabi. And there was a bit of cohesion, a bit of team bonding and chemistry. We didn't have that kind of arrangement for Morocco, and from the onset, the signs were there, because I spoke to a couple of players, I spoke to a couple of officials, and the camp was broken. before even the Tunisia game, the opening game against Tunisia, where Uganda went down 3-1. That was on December 23rd. Because my disappointment actually, and I said this last year when the team was named, was that we hadn't learned from the campaign of 2017, where there was player dissent, and then you had
in Gabon,
and then you had the very things running themselves, the ugly head back into camp in 2019.
Yeah.
in Egypt.
In Egypt, where there was that infamous strike before Uganda played Senegal, and then just for the tournament, the players laid down their tools, and heads was, I mean, many things were spoken. You know, some very tough words involving players, involving officials, and because they never reached an amicable ground. The tone was set for failure, and indeed, these things manifested themselves when the tournament started.
So when the fans complain, are they justified? You know, because
I mean, they've got to be justified because as a fan, you want the team to do well.
Yes,
You want your country to perform, and Uganda didn't perform well at AFCON because it's the biggest tournament on the continent. But when we turned in the kind of performances we did against Tunisia, against Tanzania, and against Nigeria, Uganda was the only team to use 3 goalkeepers in one match. One goalkeeper gets injured, another one gets sent off. So for me, that summed up the kind of campaign we had, and I think heads are going to roll. My hunch tells me heads are going to roll. I do not know in which way, but some tough decisions are going to be made ahead of Pamoja, because again, clearly everyone was dismayed by what transpired in Gabon, and things have got to change.
All right, thank you so much, Mark. I
mean, it's one of the there was several disappointing things for me about what happened in that camp that led to that strike, the training session that was cancelled, and then going into the Tunisia game with the cloud hanging over the team because of that entire episode. One of those, of course, is that I believe that the current FIFA hierarchy have been in place for a long enough time to have avoided that scenario. Because they have the experiences, like Mark was saying, from the past, but also too, because these days they are better prepared and also better facilitated and to actually handle these issues. Allowances issues should never come up at a major tournament for which they had qualified an entire year earlier. Honestly, I think this FIFA can actually has
one of the players actually told me
enough resources to be able to handle that 6 months prior. I was disappointed.
One of the players told me that we were the least facilitated team in Gabon, and he told on the pitch. This is one of the players admitting this to me, and he just gave me a snippet of what transpired in that heated exchange, that closed-door meeting which they had with the FIFA president. So, again, at the end of the day, you reap what we sow, and we sowed.
I know.
What we reaped.
And the other disappointing thing I had from that was the kind of example set by that disorganization, by that fallout, set for a guy like James Bogere. This is a guy who's 17 years old, had shown for Uganda in Qatar at the World Cup. He's the future. He's the next best thing. And he'd been taken to this camp to pick up the good experiences that he would use with his teammates who were taking Uganda forward. What does he go and see? Guys not getting paid, guys striking, and
that's not a good look.
It's a terrible look, from guys. I mean, there were guys in there who are old enough to be his father on the team as players. And what examples was he picking from these guys?
And Bogre was one of our better players, actually. He was one of our better players.
He only played one game.
The film when he came on, he played both games. He came on against Tunisia, and then he came on against Tanzania as well. He even won the penalty, which Alanakelo missed. But what example are you setting for such a kid? He's 17. He's not even of voting age. And
because the very reason they took him there for is the one actually that they messed up entirely. So that was really disappointing for me. And I mean, there's got to be explanations, of course, made. The other thing, of course, that it brought to mind is, did we hang on to some players for too long? Did we, I mean, Dennis Onyango coming out of retirement, for example, Kariba Ucho still being the captain of this team. you want experience in your team. You want guys who've been there and done that. But then there's always it's a thin line. Have they stayed too long? Should they have been there? Were they a good or bad influence on the rest of the group? And the thing though is that well, what we heard, Mark will tell me if I'm right or wrong, is that it wasn't them that started this whole talk about allowances and then led their mates to strike and all. It was because the guy who was actually been the fall guy is Elio Capodossi. Lives in Italy, plays out of Romania, and is not scared to be to be victimized, if you like, by a vindictive administration, if you like, for speaking out. So he spoke out on behalf of some guys who might not be able to, because they think they will be victimized and not be called back onto the Cranes team at all.
And some players on the team
beyond caring about that. So he spoke out, and then you get all this this information coming out of Morocco saying that he paid the price by not being played. The official word is that he was injured, and Fufa and the guys who run the team insisted that Capodossi was injured through this.
Yes.
But the question marks linger, and I'd like for Mark to tell me actually that
some of the players insist that Capodossi wasn't injured. The very players who were with him in camp, so we did not know. Only Capodossi. Some of them insist that Capodossi, because he was the most outspoken when they were having that exchange with the former President Magogo in their candid meeting. Some players insist he was never injured and he just simply sat down the tournament. Others in the technical setup say that he was injured and that's why he didn't play. So we shall never know. Only Capodossi will know. However, before we leave this topic, and I know we've got to move on to something else. Could it be that the former President Moses Magogo was distracted with his campaign bid in Buyende, where he's trying to come back as the MP, and because of that, because this is the first time you've had AFCON happening in this season, January election season, and clearly his campaign and his bid to hold on to the Budiopa East seat must have distracted him from the events in Rabat.
I can't say for sure. I mean, I don't think I'd say that necessarily, because I mean, I think he's managed to juggle between those different portfolios quite well and in the run up to this, and he was in Morocco. The issues that came up in Morocco, I don't think can be blamed on that on election season. Why? Because I am thinking the issue of allowances should have been sorted out 6 months prior to. That's what I'm saying. A lot earlier, because I mean, for example, the Cranes qualified for AFCON long before they played in the CHAN, long before they played 3/4 of the World Cup qualifying campaign, but they were paid for those. We know that millions and millions of shillings were deposited in their accounts for CHAN. For their exploits in CHAN, including the money given by the head of state. These
are different teams, Mark, and one of the reasons why the players were dissenting is because some of the players were saying, if you could give the players that amount of money, hundreds of million shillings for CHAN, we're playing in a bigger tournament, we're the national team. The CHAN guys are not the
That's exactly what I'm saying. The election cannot be an excuse.
Move on and on and on.
Yes, but the election can't be an excuse then.
I know.
Because CHAN happened long after qualification for AFCON, and these are the allowances the guys were asking about.